18 teams to go on my road to predict all 131 teams this college football offseason. And we're moving on to the Western Michigan Broncos. And this is a team a season ago that was pretty solid in the Mid-American Conference. They had some of the better offensive players, some really good defensive talent there as well. And, went ahead and won their bowl game against what was a pretty overall talented Nevada team. Well, speaking of pretty talented, this is the Western Michigan team that may very well be a less talented team than last season. They are losing a lot offensively, some pretty key pieces on the defensive side of the ball as well. But Western Michigan, this is the team that believes they are built for the postseason. So will Western Michigan find themselves back into a bowl game, or will the Broncos come up just short of getting back to the postseason? What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate, and welcome to my channel. I'm predicting all 131 teams this college football offseason, which means I'm doing your favorite team. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, so you know when that video gets uploaded. Yet, chances are I've already done your favorite team. So if you go through on my channel, hit the subscribe button, go through my channel. I have playlists there where you can find your favorite team. But again, if I haven't done them, ring the bell, and it'll tell you when I've uploaded your favorite team. But for fans of the Broncos out there, you guys are going to know this team a lot more than I do. So if you feel like I missed something, you want to add something, hey, whatever have you, leave it in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to hear what you guys have to say. So let's talk about Western Michigan in 2022, my 7th ranked team in the Mid-American Conference coming into the 2022 college football season. Last year, they were 8-5, 4-4 overall. Again, that's 7-5 in the regular season. Did end up winning that bowl game over Nevada, I do believe. And last year, statistically, well, they were statistically these were some of the better statistics in the conference from a season ago. In terms of offensively, you had 463 yards per game with 31 points per game. And defensively, well, you only allowed teams to gain around 340 yards, which was the best defense in terms of yards per game in the Mid-American Conference. The only problem is you also didn't necessarily stop teams from scoring the football. Allowed 28.5 points per game last year. So there are some things to clean up for Western Michigan this upcoming season. And there's definitely, along with things to clean up overall, there are some holes to fill, which is the much bigger concern for this Broncos team in this upcoming season. Because Caleb Ellaby, that quarterback that was fantastic for this Broncos team a season ago, is gone. Had 3,277 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 interceptions with a 63.5% completion percentage. That is a huge loss, and a lot of inexperience in this quarterback room. You're going to need to find a guy to come and replace a guy with Caleb Ellaby's stature. Jackson Kincaid was the 3rd leading rusher last year, and he has gone 480 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. But the biggest losses to the skill corps this season has been Sky Moore. What a season he had last year, and he'll hopefully be lighting things up at the next level in the NFL. 95 catches, 1,292 yards, and 10 touchdowns. But you also lose Jalen Hall, who was the 3rd leading receiver last year. 752 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. So 2 huge pieces in the pass-catching options are going to be gone off this team. Bryson Anelli and Anthony Torres are a couple names that leave this program as well. They were your 4th and 5th leading receivers, respectively. In the defensive side, well, no defensive loss is bigger than Ali Fayed, who had 13 sacks a season ago, and Ralph Holley as well, who had 6 a season ago. But both of those huge losses off of the defensive line. You have a linebacker defensive back combination player in A.J. Thomas, who was gone there as well. Thomas had 53 tackles, 5 passes defended last year. And Jake Myrtle, Theron Coleman, you lose them there as well out of the defensive backfield. So there are holes to fill for this Western Michigan team, and I think the more glaring holes are on the offensive end, but finding guys to replace Fayed, Holley, Coleman, Myrtle are going to be some challenging positions to fill there as well. But taking a look at what they have, well, your quarterback is probably going to end up being one of these 2 names. Jack Salopek and Marion Harabowski are going to be those 2 options at the quarterback position. Now, it seems like Salopek will get that role. He only threw 5 passes last year, and Harabowski only threw 1. So a lot of unknown about this quarterback position. Probably not going to get as good of quarterback play as you had with Caleb Ellaby this past season, but we'll see how the quarterback play goes for this team. In terms of the skill positions, well, you have your 2 leading rushers coming back. Sean Tyler comes back at 1,150 yards, 9 touchdowns, and Ladarius Jefferson comes back, who did have a little bit more carries than Sean Tyler, but had fewer yards, 836 yards and 10 touchdowns for Jefferson. They're going to be going back to that 1-2 system, I would imagine, at the running back position. Now, even though you lose Moore and you lose Hall, Corey Crooms is back for this team with 768 yards and 6 touchdowns from last season. Crooms figures to be that number one option coming in this season. But other than that, there really is a lot of unknown about this team because Tyler had 100 receiving yards last year. Jefferson had 38. There were a couple other players in there, but there's a lot of unknown about this wide receiver room. Well, it's going to be looking a little bit like this behind Crooms. Kavion Mack, Anthony Sambucci, and Henry Wilson there as well for this wide receiver room. Now, none of those guys, to my knowledge, caught a pass for this team last year. In fact, they may not even have been targeted a season ago, but all three of those guys, according to the depth chart site I use, figure to play some pretty solid minutes for this Broncos team. But behind Corey Crooms, we'll see what this wide receiver room has to offer. On the defensive line, well, it's going to look like Braden Fisk, Andre Carter, and Marshawn Nealand are going to be kind of your three guys right there on the defensive line that, well, will get name recognition. But how big of a get back is this? Your three leading tacklers and probably could be your three best players on the defensive side in Zaire Barnes, Corvin Moment, and Ryan Selig, who combined for around 175 tackles and 10 sacks last year. Yeah, those are three huge get backs for this defense. Also, Dorian Jackson, who had 12 passes defended, 2 interceptions, both of which led the team. He's coming back, as well as a guy by the name of Delano Ware, who had 40 tackles for this team last year at the safety position. So definitely some holes to fill. How good is their quarterback play? How does their wide receiver room step up? Is this defense up to task? Because when we take a look at this schedule, oh man, there are some tricky ones here on this schedule. You have a road game against Michigan State, a home game against Pitt, and a road game against San Jose State in non-conference play. And none of those games are going to be easy. San Jose State probably as close to a 50-50 game as you're going to get. But that's a game that, wow. I mean, wow, that's going to be a tough game right there. All three of those games are going to be tough games. However, Western Michigan did beat Pitt last year on the road. We'll see if they can do it again at home. But I don't think Pitt's going to want to lose to the Broncos twice. In conference play, you have road games against Ball State, Miami of Ohio, Bowling Green, and Central Michigan. Home games against Eastern Michigan, Ohio, Northern Illinois, and Toledo. So kind of diving in a little bit deeper into the schedule. Michigan State. Now, if Western Michigan had Caleb Ellaby, had Sky Moore, this would be a game that I would say, ooh, Michigan State's got to watch out for. Because that secondary last year was one of, if not the worst secondary in the nation, allowed over 300 yards per game through the air. That just cannot happen again. I do expect improvement out of that Michigan State secondary, and with a lot of unknown about this Western Michigan passing attack, I think it's pretty safe to say that Michigan State probably will be able to win that game. Same thing with Pitt. Now, I know Pitt loses a lot. Jordan Addison, Kenny Pickett, etc., etc. You guys know some of the other names off that team, but Pitt is bringing in Keaton Slovis at the quarterback position. I think a name that some people may have forgotten about at that quarterback position. I do think Keaton Slovis can put up some good stats for Pitt this year. And then on the road against San Jose State. Now, San Jose State, kind of a disappointing year after a breakout year in 2020. Last season, kind of a disappointing year, but they're bringing in Siobhan Cordero, a couple of Nevada transfers at the wide receiver position. I do think this team overall can be better and can push their way to a bowl game. This may be a very crucial game for both these teams to get their way into bowl season. Now, I am slightly leaning towards the Broncos just because of that defense and what they have returning on the defensive side of the ball, but yes, the offense. And, well, throughout their first two games, and then you have that game against Ball State thrown in there as well, a team that I don't think is going to be great this year, that is losing quite a bit of talent, but yet you have to go on the road. It's a Western Michigan team that's going to be tested coming into that game. They would have played Michigan State. They would have played Pitt, would have gone on the road to play Ball State. That'll be an interesting game. New Hampshire should be a win. And when you look at the rest of the Mid-American slate, lots of competitive games. I mean, Northern Illinois can prove to be competitive. They won the conference last year. Toledo, one of the favorites in the division. Miami of Ohio, same thing. They may very well have the best quarterback in the conference with Gabbert. Eastern Michigan and Ohio can be competitive this year. Eastern Michigan, a favorite to make a bowl game. Ohio, just a team that can improve. Bowling Green's Bowling Green is the leading team in terms of returning production. Hey, watch out for the Falcons. They can be dangerous this year. And Central Michigan may very well be the most talented team in this conference. So lots of really good competitive games on the schedule for Western Michigan this year. Now, making a bowl game for this team, I think, is the goal. And I think is what this team is going to strive for. It's going to be a difficult challenge with the schedule. But I do think they can do it. As we take a look at the percentages, because yes, I don't do game-by-game predictions. I do a more percentage-based Alec tell me predict the team's record. So if the game's in red, just don't see you winning the game. Michigan State, there's your case. Orange, well, still don't think you're going to win the game. But hey, it is college football and upsets can happen. Yellow are your 50-50 or high upset potential games. Games in yellow-green are games that you should win. But you got to watch out for the team on the other side of the ball. And games in green, I have you winning. So New Hampshire probably should be able to win that game there. Bowling Green is a game that is in yellow-green, but that very well could be a game that's in yellow. Bowling Green returns a lot and won 4 games last year. Now, they did pull off a Minnesota upset a season ago, beat the Golden Gophers in their own stadium. But Bowling Green, this is a team that you got to watch out for because there are a lot of nice pieces on this Bowling Green team. A lot of pieces I like, a lot of pieces I think can have some good seasons for the Falcons. So with Western Michigan going on the road to play that game, I would watch out. I would think the Broncos should be able to get that one done, but Bowling Green can be a tricky team to play this year. When you look elsewhere, I mean, they're not going to win on the road against Michigan State, and they get Pitt at home this year. They did beat them on the road a season ago, but this is a Pitt team that, again, as I said about, I think people are forgetting some of the talent that is here. Yes, Jordan Addison's gone. Yes, Tayseer Mack is gone. Hey, they're getting Kanata Mupfield over from Akron. That's a name that a lot of Mid-American fans will know if they watch this conference closely. Otherwise, when you take a look elsewhere throughout the schedule, I mean, you have the road game against Ball State. I don't think that's going to be a very good team this year, yet they can still prove to be competitive. Ohio, I still don't think is going to be a great team this year, but that is an Ohio team that, well, you expect some level of improvement out of at least. Eastern Michigan's going to be competitive this year, but that's a very winnable game for Western Michigan there as well as you get the Eagles at home. I think even Toledo can be a sneaky winnable game. Now, a lot of people are high on this Toledo team, and for some good reason there as well. It's a Toledo team that was pretty solid last year, pretty good, and they're one of the favorites in this conference. I think Western Michigan can pull off the slight upset here at home. Miami of Ohio, I think that's a game that's going to be hard for them to win. I think Northern Illinois, that's going to be a game that's hard for them to win. And especially Central Michigan on the road. I think that's going to be a hard game for them to win as well. All 3 of those teams are going to be very, very challenging opponents to any team in the Mid-American Conference this upcoming season. When you take a look at Western Michigan overall, yes, there are a lot of questions. Quarterback play, how does the wide receiver room look, things like that. But you return a lot of production in the run game, which I expect they're going to lean on this year. And, well, it's some pretty good players back there with Sean Tyler and Ladarius Jefferson. And I think this defense is up to task against a lot of the offenses they're going to go up against this upcoming season. I do think Western Michigan can make their way back to a bowl game, and I think that's what they do. I have this team at 6-6. I think this team is more than capable of beating San Jose State, pulling off a win or two that maybe they shouldn't in conference play, may be necessary for this team to get into a bowl game, and who knows how this passing attack is going to look. But I think the defense is up to task. I think that run game is going to be good for them this year. I got the Broncos getting back to the postseason. That's my prediction for the Western Michigan Broncos. Be sure you guys leave a like, comment, subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.